to order. But thank everybody for coming. Welcome everybody. Our mayor is a little bit late today. He's involved in a budget meeting in the city, for the county. So for this budget meeting, we're gonna get started without our mayor George. We're gonna do some slideshows and stuff. But for the folks that it's their first budget meeting, possibly not too many people here. It is the first budget meeting, except for maybe one that I can see. Jeff, welcome. Mark, you've had lots. So without any further ado, let's get started. So,
thank you.
Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interests? If so, declare them. Hearing none. So we'll move on. There's no minutes for a previous meeting, so there's none of them. And additional items as disclosed. I think this meeting's going to be long enough. We can talk about it next Thursday. So, moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that the Town of Minto convenes into Committee of Whole to conduct budget deliberations. All in favor? Against? That's carried. So, the first item on the agenda is an introduction by our mayor, and I'm sure he'll do that when he gets here. So the second item is presentation, acting CAO and treasurer. Go ahead, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you for taking the reins. Yes, the mayor did call, and the AF&P committee meeting seemed to went a little long today, and he just got out about 4 o'clock. So he is on the highway back, and the weather report he gave me was the highway conditions were good, so he should be making good time. So we told him to stay off the side roads because they're a little icy.
Slow down, Laura.
As per our building inspector, who was out on the side roads spinning around, he said. So anyway, what we'd like to do is start with a slideshow like we have customarily done for the past almost 8 years. And this has got Bill written all over it because Bill has left us the slideshow and we've tweaked it. So I do apologize for the revamp stuff coming out on Monday. A lot of that was because of the holidays and because I was on holidays that we didn't get a chance to finalize stuff. So I'll take the blame on that the stuff didn't get finalized till Monday. So that's why the update went out. But as you can see in the first slide on your cover, what we've called this budget, because Bill always liked to give a term, and I still like that this is called continuity. So we're continuing on. We've got some changes to senior management. I'm not Bill sitting here. So there's some changes, but it's continuity, is carrying on as we have the past 8 years. And Bill always liked to put quotes in, and you can see the first 3 quotes is take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, and the thing is continuity. The thing is continuity of strategic directions and continuous improvement in how you do things is absolutely consistent with each other. In fact, they're mutually reinforcing. So away we go. So the kind of the schedule, as you can see, is we're going to the introduction, which the deputy mayor said the mayor might do a little bit later. We're doing this presentation, and then we're going to get right into the budget sheets. Same as every other year, you're going to have the department head come up, and they're going to give you the quick summary of their budget sheets, and then they're going to be opening for questions and anything that you want clarification on. You can see day 2 is February 12th. Hopefully everyone has that. They're marking their calendars, but that will be capital. So today is operating only, and we will get into the capital discussions on February 12th. And then March 19th is going to be the budget open house. So it's open to the public from 5 to 6:30 as we've done in years past. So those are the 2 other key dates other than today for everybody to make sure that they've got written down. You can see there, this is just a reminder of all of our strategic plans, and the first one is obviously our strategic plan. Overall, it is up for renewal this year in discussion. That'll be a report that'll come to you probably in the spring once we get through some of these other things. But we are up for discussion on how we want to review our strategic plan and what we want to do with it. From redoing the whole thing to tweaking it and being happy with the strategies that we have it and carrying on. The official plan is there, and then all of our other subsequent plans that we've done, which you can see at the bottom. A reminder, as we always do, our vision and mission statement, which everybody should have memorized by now. I know most councillors have. I wasn't going to ask you to quote it. I wasn't going to get you to quote it. There will be multiple choice questions later on about that.
Okay, multiple choice.
It's either A or C. Strategic direction. So in our strategic plan, you can see there's where the different categories we have in our strategic plan, and then the number of sections that are in each one of them. So we have economic development, the financial strategy, emergency services and health, recreation and facilities, tourism and culture, planning and development, agriculture and environment, public works, and governments and leadership. So those are the areas that we have now, and just food for thought, but those are the areas that you need to think about. But if you're happy with those categories, that's great, and we can maybe tweak it come this year. Or if you want to add some categories or look at those, that's a question that I'll come to later on when we're reviewing our strategic plan. Economic backdrop. So we've talked about this forever, and it's really starting to take effect here in Minto. You can see in this chart where the boomers entered the baby boomers entered the workforce, and now we're becoming to the fact where the baby boomers are starting to turn 65 and younger, and people are starting to leave the workforce and retire. And that's really affecting us, not only the town, but it's affecting our workforce out in the town, as everybody knows. Belinda's done a lot of work with the workforce planning, and that to try and get workers to come to Minto. And you can see how much this drops off, how much a problem it's going to be. And I love the chart up in the front, up in the top right corner, because I'm in the minority here, but we still have 12 plus workers that are over 50. We only have 4 that are in the so-called middle, and we have 24 that are under 40. So the 12 at the top are the ones that worry us going forward.
They're very worrisome. And, and I always figure that it mirrors the province, only Minto is like the province, only more so. Like we really have very few middle-aged people, and that's kind of the general demographic, but we really represent that. Anyway, lots of young people.
Yeah, well, I'd like to call it the middle young age group instead of the middle-aged people. At the bottom, you can see too just some stats that Bill put in there. The unemployment rates, and the lowest ever was 2.6%, which I found very interesting, and the highest was 13.1%. Because that leads into the next slide, and this is where we do have, in my opinion, some significant shortfalls in the town. Is Ontario's jobless rate is 5.9%, and that fluctuates. Minto is under 4%. And if you can see there, as you've been told many times, full employment is considered anything under 4%. So we're at capacity of workers. So a lot of the focus of Linda and her department and everybody else here, quite frankly, is working at trying to get more people to move to town to work, because we have a lot of jobs and not enough people. I had a very interesting conversation actually with our shuttle driver last week returning from the airport, and just explaining that her family is trying to find jobs down in Toronto and how much they can't find jobs, and she's driving a shuttle bus, but she's trained, I think she was trained as an engineer, I believe. And I said, well, where I live, we have the opposite problem, is we have too many jobs and not enough people. So that just floored her. She couldn't believe that we in an hour and 45 minutes away from Toronto, there's a place that has too many jobs and not enough people. So that was totally foreign to her and unbelievable. So it is a unique problem that not only us but people in this area have, but it's something that we are going to have to deal with for sure. This is the depressing slide about the debt and the deficits and the billions and billions of dollars, which we won't get too much into, but that's the economic backdrop that we all know that we're living in, and as governments change and different parties take control, we definitely see a lot of cutbacks and stuff like that are happening, especially right now at the province, which we will talk a lot about today, I'm sure. Some more economic backdrop information is, we all know that the CMHC housing unit growth is the highest it's been since 2007, and we're the highest ever in Minto that we've ever seen. Our resale market is still maintaining really, really strong, and you don't need to be a real estate expert to see that. You can talk to any young person trying to crack the housing market, and it's difficult for them to find a place to live, and that's affordable. Interest rates change, the mortgage restrictions there, but it doesn't seem to be right now having an impact in our area, just from everybody's own experience. Cost of living in September of 2017 was 1.6%, and now in September 2018 it was
1.92.
It's kind of holding steady around the 2%, just under 2% mark. So that's another indicator. U.S. economic policy, well, that fluctuates every day. So it all depends on what Twitter says and how much that fluctuates. But our budget is assuming that we're still going to continue with moderate growth in housing, agriculture, and manufacturing. And we're very confident with Terry's work and what he's seeing in building permits that that's going to maintain strong for the next year. Our business and economic development houses a lot of the plans, and that department's done a lot of the plans over the years and maintained them and works on them. So the cultural plan is the first one that we talk about, and there's the 4 different items of the cultural plan. It's creative identity, capacity, creative enterprise, and creative places. And that's Belinda and her crew work by that one and have the cultural roundtable still is going strong and talks about that all the time. And the way that we embrace culture and the way that we do culture around in Minto is unique and it seems to work really, really well for us and really takes a lot of our initiatives forward because of that. There's not a lot of small places that have cultural plans like what we have and push it, and we all know what the benefits of that are. The values are there of the cultural plan, and we put them in there just so that they're reminded, and you can see what we look at all the time when we're having discussions on different items. Then another plan that's out of there is the Integrated Sustainability Community Plan. And some of the goals of it, and reading through it was a good reminder for myself too, but we want optimum population so Minto pays its bills and takes on new projects. And that goes right back to we talked about the economic backdrop. It's very important that we continue to work hard to promote people coming here, not only to work, but to get them places to live. We use agricultural abundance to nourish land, people, and livelihoods. And you'll see from today and future discussions we've already had that agriculture right now is the hot topic in agriculture is cannabis and how much the production facilities and how much money that's putting into communities. Pursue fiscal and ecological responsibility with equal diligence. Build main streets to support the businesses and civic life. You've done that in the past. Just completed the project last year in Clifford, which we'll talk about in the budget and the ramifications of that. But from all accounts, the downtown there looks beautiful, and what you've done to the downtown cores has helped stimulate a lot of growth. Create, retain enterprises with low environmental impact and provide fulfilling jobs for people in Minto. Our industrial parks are busy. There's a lot of high quality jobs coming to Minto. As I don't mean to sound like a broken record, it's just getting people to take those jobs. And we focus on health and recreational well-being, which again in the budget we're going to talk about recreational master plan and how we're going to approach that going forward in the future. Another one is fire master plan, which I know that one pretty good. The best thing about this one, in my opinion, is we were able to do it twice in-house. The first time back in 2013, and then in 2017 we revised it because we needed to update the document. But it was always done in-house and it was written originally with no use of consultants and that. And it's been a very good guiding document for the fire department to know what to progress to and what we can accomplish as a department. Recreation needs. So as we talked about, the recreation master plan is going to be brought up by Al and Matt. The goal is to create a terms of reference or a guideline on how we're going to move forward with that by the fall of this year. And Al will talk a little more in depth about that, so I don't want to steal his thunder. But a bunch of the recreational needs that we've completed is the Hairston Kinsman Pool has been upgraded and looks really good. Central booking structure has taken place and is working very effectively, not only from the user groups, but from staff inside. It's just made life a whole lot easier. The Minto complex and the trailer park site plan, we're working on that to what we're going to do with that area and how we can beautify that. John Holman Rotary Park expansion has gone well. I think the pavilion or the booth and the decking is done around the diamond, which is going to be a great feature for next year. And that's been all done by a lot of volunteer labor and a lot of funds that have been donated, as you know. And the Trails Committee has done a lot of work. We've got the trail from Palmerston to Hairston. We're working on the trail from Hairston to Clifford. The one thing I will add with that this is just nothing to do with budget, but We did, as the fire department, had a small fire on the walking trail bridge. The other bridge that's already been shut down. There was a fire on the old bridge that was shut down that we're looking to replace. So not much damage was done, but it's just adding to the insurance claim that we already have and we're talking to them about. So that's a unfortunate event that happened last week. Succession plan. This was the hot topic last year, and as you can see, we're still going through it. Like many employers, as Gord mentioned, we must replace up to 8 positions in the next 5 years, including at least 1 or 2 senior management positions. So there's going to be a lot of decisions the council is going to have to make on how to proceed with structure and how you want to proceed with some of these senior management positions. Staff has been working hard to put together a plan, and you'll see that coming forward in the future. But to get people trained and get people ready to take different positions as they come open. The CAO position, as it always has been here, should be a combined position. In our belief, again, this is something you'll have future discussions on, but we've always attached the CAO position to another title, and it's worked very well in the past for us. The size of the senior management team will be based on retention. We've talked about merging and promoting internally where it makes sense as we go forward in the future. The departure of the public works director created a short-term opportunity for certain staff, so we've had the 3 gentlemen move up there. It's working very, very effectively that they've taken the leads in each of their own departments. They work extremely well together. It's created a redundancy that when one's away, there's 2 other ones to fill in for that person. And talking to them regularly like I do, they are very happy and think it's working extremely well for them in these public works. We continue to train internally, prepare candidates for vacated positions as we see that they're coming up. This is something that I'll say Minto has done extremely well over many, many years. Not just the past couple terms, but over a long time. You can just look at the staff behind me and a bunch of the staff in the field, but a lot of the staff start here as summer students and work their way up and continue to work for the town and dedicate their time to the town, and then they work their way up to more senior positions, which I believe is, in my opinion, what has made the staffing here and this community such a great community. Because the people that work their way up are born and raised or moved here at a young age, and they care about the community, and they continue to dedicate their time and work their way up through here, and then take on more challenges and more higher positions. And they're doing it for the right reasons because of the care that they have here and because of the team that they see that they've created. And quite frankly, everybody enjoys working together. And when you enjoy working together and you do things together work-wise, it makes for a much easier transition when you talk about succession planning. That talks about the staff and the strong core of young people that we have, and we have benefited a lot. The organizational structure is an old one because I didn't switch it over, but you can see it's the CAO clerk, and we know that's changed to what it is at right now as the acting CAO. But it gives you an idea of the full-time equivalents under each department. And the point that I just wanted to make out of here is we have 42 full-time staff equivalent positions right now, with 1 vacant currently. And in 2010 we had 40 positions. So in 8 years we've gone up 2 full-time positions. But we have taken on a lot more responsibilities and a lot more buildings and stuff that anybody that's been here a long time knows all that. The internal, external, and pay equity, we've achieved it, plus the cost of living, which is 1.7%. So we've achieved that. We've got the provincial mandated asset management program, but Gord continues to work on.
Even as recently as this morning, so.
That's Gord's favorite term, asset management.
I suppose, yeah. So hopefully we'll have a new plan for you in the spring, since it didn't happen before Christmas. So we're still working away at that with our consultants, and it's very important for grants and very important as a tool for us too, making decisions. And the whole documentation of complaints and service requests and work orders, that's been implemented for a year and a half now, and it's worked really well. So thanks to frontline staff especially.
We've also made huge strides in accessibility, vulnerable occupancies. We, as fire service, had to work with that. source water protection, and many, many other items that have come down and we faced it and dealt with it. Just to point out at the bottom there, this budget does not include a fund a public works director in 2019. I should say 2019, not 2018, but this budget that we're going to present to you does not include a public works director position. Asset management.
Which I basically just talked about. It's all there.
The interesting one there is on a replacement cost basis over a 10-year period, $6.9 million per year would be needed at this point. Gord says the revised plan will be coming forward, but at this point the draft one was that, but that figure could change once the new plan comes forward.
Exactly. I think we got two conflicting things. Everybody knows the price of everything's going up, but when we reviewed the last condition ratings, a lot of the ratings in actual fact are better than what's shown on paper, so at least that somewhat mitigates the cost pressures.
And everybody's favorite slide, but it is one of the things that I like to look at, and I talk to a lot of people about the actual breakdown of tax dollars, and hopefully everybody in the community can see this and understand it and knows it, like we all know it, that for your tax dollars, we only get to keep 38% of the tax dollars. So that is a big educational thing that hopefully everybody can understand. So right now, 1% tax increase that in tax rates for the town would equal another $49,000 a year for us at the town. So as we all know, not very much.
That's a good perspective. That tells you where we're at.
And then the breakdown of department, which has changed a little bit over the years, but is maintained pretty steady of where all of your tax dollars go. Now this slide, we'll spend a little bit of time talking on. The OMPF funding is the one that we are still waiting on to hear.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of sets the context for what we're doing today. We've all the departments have worked on, we're presenting what we can control. The big unknown is the roughly $1.6 million. And again, as we just said, 1% is 49,000. So we're very dependent on that. I think everyone's seen the letter, and I know at council we talked about it. It came out just before Christmas. The province is taking a hard look at this whole program, and I know that our municipal associations are lobbying to proceed very cognizant on that. So for this budget, what we have today, I've just put in the same amount because I know nothing different. But as you know, if we get the information, hopefully before our capital meeting, we'll have to revise that. And the other thing, there's not a lot of grants. For those of you that have been around for a while, usually I'm coming to you and, well, we got this and it's tentative. We have a few of them, but there's so few grants out there now. So the only things we know for sure are the OCIF formula. So thankfully that's gone up and it's committed to 2020. And we have our federal gas tax. And that's basically it as far as operational funds and limits for capital. And it's all outlined here.
So a reminder, like last year, we took a fairly significant hit of $170,000 that we got cut. So if we get another cut similar to that last year, as Gord said, that's going to be a significant thing that we're going to have to overcome, for the next budget. So we're hopeful, but cautiously to say we're not very optimistic that we're not going to get cut again, with the indications that with that letter and some other things. So a word, whether it's at Roma or anytime you get the opportunity to talk to provincial cabinet members, is to lobby on that behalf to say we need this funding. Like this funding we base a lot of our stuff on this funding. And the other part of it is it's very difficult, as Gord said, to do a budget when you don't know how much funding you're going to get, and it comes in at different times all the time. So communities that have already completed their budget could be really going backwards to scramble if they said we passed our budget and then they get a cut in their funding. So a lot of this unknown and waiting around for them to decide is very difficult for us to prepare a budget to present to you with that element of unknown out there. So just a an ask from us is if you do get the chance to talk, is to lobby and say, we need this funding to keep going with a lot of the projects and a lot of the stuff that you committed to before. As we talked about before, and this slide's a little redundant, is we should spend between $2.8 and $6 million to properly maintain our assets and to maintain the roads and keep everything on. But there's an example of a grant project that we did. Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Gord put this chart in there to give you an idea of the Clifford project.
We just got the final payment certificate in on Thursday. Haven't paid it yet or whatever, so as you know, that's been our biggest project. We started applying for the grants in 2015 and during 19 during the final reports and all that too. And we just got the George Street component, George Street South in Harrison, and we just received what I believe is the final payment under the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund project just last month. But that's all that we have in it. And in prior years, the slide had more things on it, and that's all we have right now.
A good slide is the 2019 tax supported reserve contributions. So this is the proposed reserve contributions that we have contained in the sheets that you'll see a little bit later. The departments have done a really good job of trying to boost their reserves, and I know Public Works especially has really done a tremendous job of their fleet management and cutting vehicles here that aren't needed anymore and boosting some of their reserve payments so that they can get on some sort of a payment of the reserves for future vehicles. So they've done a good job with their vehicle replacement plan there. So our process today is similar to other years. The mayor's going to identify each budget by service, and then we're going to have each department head come up and talk about that budget and talk to you about what's gone up, what's gone down, and just give you a quick summary. You will have, as I said, a budget open house on March 19th. The minutes from the council's budget direction, so the treasurer will prepare the final budget bylaw based on the minutes and the final resolution. So after today, you pass that resolution of today's proceedings. That will be the rest. That will be the end of the operating, and then we'll do the capital as we do in February, and you'll pass the recommendation from it. And then Gord will present the final budget bylaw passing in probably April, if everything goes well and we finally get word on our funding. There's the breakdown of the sheets, which you're very familiar with, and seem to work extremely well from the feedback we've gotten. And then the last two slides you have are the summary of the final 2018 budget up till October. Right, because we still are a long way from getting final numbers in for 2018.
Just the budget figures, and then you'll see the actuals on the spreadsheet.
Right. Yeah. So these are the budget ones, not the actuals, which could cause a fluctuation in this year's budget as always. And then just a quick summary of the difference in all of the different areas that will be presented today. Any questions on those slides or that presentation?
No, but I'd like to pass the gong and gavel back
I was just going to say, can we pass
You
that
guys
on
already
to the
said
mayor?
it over? Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you.
So
Well, I'm,
Mayor,
yeah.
any questions down there?
Was there a question? Sorry.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just in the number of staff, the chart adds up to 35. It says we have 40. Oh, and count the people up on top. All right. I didn't know if they were included but I was trying to figure out the math there.
That's
And it
the only
wasn't.
way I can make it work.
Okay.
Is that the difference?
That's an old chart, as you
Okay.
can see. So I don't know if that chart's been updated to that, but the 42 full-time equivalents is the
Okay,
number.
because I was trying to make them jive and it wasn't working.
We will review that chart. I just honestly didn't have time to get that chart all reviewed and
Fair enough.
revised for this. But yeah, that's the full-time equivalents is that.
And maybe I'll say the next section, I think we're going to just kind of gloss over it because it's a recap of everything that's to come. So it just picks out some of the highlights, say from each department and a lot of the slides and that. So
Or on this operating.
yeah, kind of from
summary?
pages 24 to 40, to 27 to 45. It's basically a recap of what we just did and some highlights of the individual departments. So it's for your reference, and if you have any questions, we can always address it. But I think
Does anybody any questions on that section? I think you guys did an overview of the highlights
Yeah.
on the previous one. This gives you a little bit more detail.
And the summary at the back will be covered in, more in depth, obviously, by each department as it comes up.
First of all, I'll thank the deputy mayor. I'm sure he did a really nice speech at the beginning. Do I have to do another one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. What do you mean? Yes. I
We've
thought
been
that-
waiting. We've been waiting
I
for
give.
over half an hour.
No, I didn't.
He said you'd be coming shortly with an impressive speech.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a long day so far. This is my third budget meeting today.
Oh dear.
Started off with economic development this morning, and then we started at 1 o'clock with the county budget. And I called Chris when I was just leaving the parking garage in Guelph just about 4 o'clock. So I don't think I sped, but I might have been a little over the amount to get here. But I said to Chris that I think, going through this first part, I wanted to not delay it. So if that was all right, I apologize for not being here. We thought we had built in a half an hour's worth of. Normally we'd be over at 3 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, at a half an hour, and as it was dragging on, finally I had to actually call the question because I think we were really getting into stuff that. There's another opportunity at the county to work on the budget at the end of the month. So everybody wanted to solve all the problems at AF&P, which wasn't the way it was going to happen. So apologize for not being here. I know, but I've sat down with the staff, and I'm sure they did a good job of presenting the overview. And I think now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it. And feel free to everybody ask any questions whenever. And I think we'll just, as we're going, Gord, or do you think you want to do the questions at the end of each group?
Yeah, I think so.
I think at the end of each group, if you want to ask your questions, then if we move on from there, that would work out. But,
Sure. So we kind of have someone who's going to present each section. And I think I'm going to do your budget.
yeah, I'm going to say you're going to do mine, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Because
Or not
this-
mine, yours,
well, the
or your
council budget.
council budget.
As we're all aware, this is a bit of an unusual year because we have a change in the treatment of your income with the loss of the 1/3 allowance. So that's the only change. We've tried to make a good estimate of how to be equivalent in how much the pay is. Again, I'll remind you, each counselor will have a different effect depending on their marginal tax rate. So, which is basically what other income you have. But that's hard for us to say. So, what Lori did when we brought the original report is basically it's based on the lowest marginal tax rate to bring you up to equivalency. And there's small changes in Canada pension too. So, anyway, that basically is a change in the budget. So we've gone from 129.7 to 147.3. That's why.
Questions on that? Oh, my only thing would be a comment, and I've made it before. I do not understand the reasoning behind this. The federal government was buried in a bill that nobody saw it right away, and FCM has been fighting this from day one. This is really affecting small towns and small municipalities across the board. The government's making money on this because they're going to get more taxes from. And at the end of the day, I don't think anybody felt that. Maybe they felt that all the municipalities were going to get cut in pay because of the difference. But I'm sure if it was under their watch and they were getting cut in pay, I'm sure they would be really happy about this. But at the end of the day, I think this is all we can do. And I know the previous council felt that way, and they kind of put it through. But again, I just think this is kind of a download from the federal government and provincial government because both of them get money out of this. And I'm thinking to myself, why? What's the rationale? When well over half. I believe it was 60% of municipalities had the third. There's some of the bigger cities had gone because they get full-time pay for their positions. They had gone to a non-third process, but they had upped their wages quite a bit over the years. So I hope that our taxpayers look at it and say, you know what, they're not getting any more money than they got before, and yet in some cases people are going to lose. So I would say anybody here, if they work out their own individual taxes, if you're working and everything, you might want to put a little extra away, because you're going to end up getting taxed like what they're putting away. I think on the regular basis, in most cases, won't suffice to the people that have got a full-time job or whatever, and they're getting income. Right, Gord?
Yeah, that's very true. And the other, as we talked about, I think all the municipal associations, not just Ontario, lobbied against this, but they did not win.
And they did budge, and I don't know why. It's one of those things that we don't know why they don't listen, but
Anyway,
they didn't.
here we
So
are.
overall, I think the budget is well in line.
See that? I can see this. Right.
So if there's no other questions on that, we'll move on to the next one.
So the clerk's CAO budget obviously is down significantly since we don't have the CAO full wage in there, because we're operating with the system that we are. So we're down that position until you have discussions on how you want to proceed. So it includes 2 full-time, and I would be the half, so half the fire chief, half the CAO, and then it includes the Quinn and Annalene in the clerk's department. So it's down significantly. Some of that money has been transferred over to Treasury to offset the position that we looked at there. But the 2 people that are doing clerks full time, I will say, are doing a phenomenal job, and have just picked up and carried on when Bill left, and making my life way easier than it should be right now. So they're doing a great job. And also, if you remember, Bill was also doing public works on top of the CAO as well, and that's been taken out because the 3 guys that are in public works and running public works are doing a fantastic job, and that's no longer needed in our books. I still attend the odd meeting and just are there to, be a sounding block and assist them, but they are more than capable of doing what they're doing. So.
Questions?
And just to kind of pick up where Chris left,
Treasurer.
basically, clerks and treasury, I treat it as it's all the same. So we got half of Tanya's in this budget now. We have, speaking of success in planning, provision for a new position here. And the other kind of disappointing one is I cut our revenue, because a year ago we thought we were getting a lot of solar net revenue from FIT 4, and that did not pan out. And so anyway, I've taken that out because there's no use in revenue that we're not going to get. So we took that out. I don't think we'll spend as much on asset management. That's another small one. And so this budget is kind of admin and everything that doesn't fit in any other budget too. So you've got your various increases and decreases there too, but basically similar. It covers the overhead of running the operation, finances. Those are the biggest changes.
Questions?
Average the solar.
Yep.
That's an annual payout, or they pay monthly?
Well, remember last year, so we were going to have 8 projects,
Yeah.
and we were thinking that we would not. Well, this is the one back in 15, 16. We literally thought $1 million over 20 years. So we put a little bit of that. If we were thinking 50 or 60 a year, they were just getting implemented. So we put 35,000 in the budget, and then we're going to put that into the reserve and all that. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out. So we've got some, and it's very interesting because we've had our microfits, which are small, and they're still getting $900. But it's very interesting to see how we really are influenced by the hours of sunlight. Like it really goes way up in the summer, and this kind of gloomy weather it goes way down too. And
So
you
it's
get,
the average.
yeah, but anyway, it certainly hasn't panned out quite as well as we thought.
So we were anticipating what?
I had 35,000 in the budget last year,
Mhm.
and by the time it came in with various expenses, it wasn't anything near that. So if we get more, great. But I thought there'd be a little cognizant and not too many in the first place.
And Gord, the increase in wages and benefits to 70,000, is that
Yeah,
your
so that's partly the new position,
Right.
and partly taking half of Tanya,
okay?
and it's kind of offset by the decrease in
Right.
wage, so
Okay,
we
so
organized.
we're thinking the new position wouldn't probably get into place until probably spring.
Yeah,
later.
because here we are now, and yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
thinking, yeah.
So that's reflected in that
realistically
70.
early. So we
Yeah.
have a net decrease between the two.
Yeah, between
Yeah.
the two, as we say in here, it's the total administration
Yeah.
budget is down
15.5.
15.5, and that's conservative. It'll probably be down more because of that position not getting in till May, June. It'll go down even more. But we're conservative that there is a significant decrease in the administration, and that will probably be even more.
Any other questions? Yeah, people and property.
Okay, I think I'm going to be people and property too because I
Why
see
not?
work on that. Yeah, why not? So, people and property, in effect, the largest things are the conservation levies and our whole flood initiatives too. So again, this is one of our unknowns, I suppose. So last year we had the flood mapping, and we did that. This year we've applied, as we know, we had our public consultation, and what we've applied for is to really analyze what we have 12 alternatives and pick 3 or 4 and really do detailed costing and some more modeling, and also some of the easy wins, which I think we're maybe cleaning up some of the debris downstream in that too. So where we're at with that, this is a federal program, but the federal government hires the province to do a review, and we have the same analysts reviewing it. So we made it through all the provincial ones. So just before Christmas, they sent it to the federal government. Last year, I think it was mid-April before we actually heard, because we had to reschedule the actual drone flights and all that too. So anyway, again, we have it in there. If we're turned down, we'll take out that part. And so far, so good on the conservation levies. One we don't know, the other is basically constant. So that's made the difference in that. Basically, it's we're going to fund our share from the water reserve. So this budget is basically flat.
We don't you don't have Maitland in there yet.
No.
So when do you expect that?
I think March.
March. Okay. Yep. Any questions? Councilor McKenzie.
Quickly, that flood relief, is that involved with the
Now that we got, this is under the National Disaster Mitigation Program, NDMP. So in 17 we had like the damage, so we had a little bit of the MDRE, Municipal Disaster Recovery Assistance, and that was the provincial one. And that was kind of repairing the damage to the roads net. We are doing some of that this year. I think the province had given us an allocation of about 180,000. We spent 120, so we have a balance to do, and we'll do culvert and shoreline repairs, however that goes. But the main one we're waiting for is this federal program.
just reading in the FCM's their role to the members. They got flooding, flood on there.
It's,
Members.
yeah.
Bigger projects. Yeah.
It's for significant projects, so I believe it's 40% funding they would give you, but you have to spend them. It's in the millions that you have to spend.
But we're heading that way. So.
Yeah.
Well, and-
we've
and
got that
it's
one in the
one to
back of
look
our
at.
mind, but
Yeah, and a good point there, Councilman Kenzie. I think when we get into the deciding of how we're going to do it, that will be a fund that we could probably look at for sure. Yeah,
I believe
because
I just
we'll
saw.
have those dollars invested at that point in time. How we're going to do it, we're not sure yet. But
I believe I just saw in the news last night that Windsor was one that just took advantage of that they're spending $90 million or something on a
Yep.
project down there, and I believe it's this one that they've tapped into, but it's that you get 40% from them. It's the hard part is the 60% on your own to come up with. So
and I noticed in the issues we talked about the possible merging trees from Minto with trails, and we did explore that, I believe, with the two committees, and they're not real keen on doing that. So I just want to bring that up. I think we're going to leave it the way it is, and they'll still work together on things. But I think now that Councilor McKenzie is actually on both those committees, it kind of works out nice that he can be a liaison between them.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's good. Yeah, the trees for Minto seems to have gotten off to a very good start. And health services, so I can do that one too. That basically covers a few different things. So we'll probably next month have an appeal from health professionals recruitment. We've given $10,000 for a long time, and I think it's really paid off. This area is being quite well served by new doctors and the RTM. We also in Clifford for Jeff and the other ones, that is a county building, and the town of Minto rents it, and then we in turn rent it to the family health team. And we used to rent the doctors, but it's basically the family health team. And that facility is really well used at capacity. And that too. We also have our community gardens, which are now in all 3 communities. Again, I think they're talking about expanding that to some degree. So, as you know, there was an increase in our rent, so that's basically the change in this budget.
Questions? Yep, sorry.
You were saying the Clifford was a county building,
Yeah.
rented by us, and then rented again?
Yeah.
Why not? They rent directly to the county. Why do we have to go through?
So this goes back to 2005, when our previous council today, we approached the county because they were going to be building, renovated library and everything in Clifford, and we said, well, at that time we'd like to extend medical services. I think there were 2 or 3 doctors in the area that were retiring. Family health teams were just coming up, and our council and staff thought that's a great idea, and the county said, yeah, that sounds fine, but we're not going to deal with any organizations. We'll deal with you, and you handle dealing with the doctors and doing all the other ones. So that's how we got into it, and we're into our 14th year. So
The costs really don't make any difference.
it's basically
You
kind
wouldn't
of
do better by going directly.
I don't think so, because like say maintenance or whatever, they maintain the library. They have the same people do that, and the same, like if there's anything wrong with the building, like replacing the roof of that, the county would do that.
Yeah, and David,
Yeah, thank you. So the cost per square foot has went up from the county on that?
Yes.
every 5 years.
It went up.
So
Yeah, 20%. Now they're going to hold that, so it's not going to be indexed annually. So they kind of did one big increase and then they hold it next term.
So we can't pass that along to the Family health team.
Unfortunately,
Next
family
year.
health team is, regulated by the Ministry of Health. They treat us as well as we can, but they have their budget constraints too.
Maybe
So
next year.
It becomes a bit.
So we kind of subsidized a little bit, and I just back on the construction. We're not alone here. Drayton has a family health team that Drayton or Mapleton put their. It was a county building too, and they worked on with the county. They rent back. I think Arthur is in the same boat. So the county was willing to put up the capital, but they didn't want to get into the business. So, and I think, to be honest with you, it works better that the lower tier has that, or the local tier has that. And work with the county. The only thing I would say that the county it's one of their procedures, but they tend to, instead of doing it every year and putting it up in inflationary with their rent, they do every 5 years. So it's a big whack. And then it levels off because normally in most places you have a small inflationary increase every year on it. The county tends to do it the other way. I've argued that point, but they're stuck in that's the way they do all their buildings. Anything they have leased. It's not just us; it's everywhere. So it's what we live with.
So both the library and the medical center have been really good for Clifford. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, I think that's attracted a lot of the newcomers too.
You know what?
especially the little village, but both of them.
Yeah, it's a big part when you look at how we've got 40-some homes in Clifford. If you look at what Clifford brings as far as an economic development standpoint, is you have a library, a really nice library system. We get a lot of people from Howick get mad because they have to pay an annual fee to come to our library, but they do. And you've got the arena, you've got the hall, you've got everything there. You've got the fire department. It's all there, the parks. And that's why we're seeing the growth in Clifford, I think, because if you don't have that ability to, that whole wanting to live in a place of community value, so it really adds value to it. So. All right, moving on.
Linda.
Economic
Development. Finally, we got somebody else to talk for it. I was going to say, we should have split you up somehow, put that into. Welcome, Belinda.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hopefully this isn't too painful. So my budgets are pretty, I think, straightforward. In terms of economic development, the main increase or the change in our budget is obviously due to the principal, debt, and interest payments, and that is related to the Clifford Diggin' project for all the pretty things. So the brand new street lights, interlocking brick trees. That stuff is not covered under the Connecting Link funding, so that is something that we took on. And then the other piece that would cause our increase is the increase in wages and benefits. And I will note that the increase for the North for Youth stuff is really not, it looks like an increase, but it's not. The fee that we pay to the family health team for having the youth resiliency worker is exactly the same at $13,000. And there is a small $2,000 increase because we were successful in getting a grant this year to have a municipal intern, which is going to be working on a project tied to our youth that are going to be staying in the community. So in a lot of our efforts, we're looking at youth that are moving away and how to bring them back. This project is looking at the youth that are going to stay and how we can provide them opportunities to enhance their lives here in our community. So outside of that, those are really the main increases in our budget. We've tried to lower where we can to keep things in check as much as we could. So unless anyone has any questions.
Questions?
Okay. So the tourism budget is, again, pretty straightforward. We're actually down a little bit this year, and the main reason for that is the reduction in advertising promotions, and that is tied to the butter tarts and buggies. So we took that to a 2-year initiative. It used to be yearly we would do the map, and now we do it every other year, so we don't need to put in our $2,500 to do that. So that has been a big cost savings there. So we're down a little bit in the tourism budget. Any questions? Okay. Moving on to Launch It. Again, we're down a little bit in the Launch It budget. And just to reiterate that this is a very key partnership project with the Minto Chamber of Commerce, and we definitely continue to thank them for their contribution to the project, as well as to the County of Wellington for the continued BRE implementation fund. That is a huge help for this program. And yeah, like I said, we're down. The big thing here was last year we had budgeted $10,000 to host a special event. We were going to partner with another large business on that, and that just never came to fruition. So we have taken that out. And we're finding that for our Ag Incubator project, we don't have a huge expense on advertising that. So we've lowered that as well. And it should say there, reduction in fees, not feed, to the business advisor.
Yes.
It should be fees. We feed them, but not very that often. But our business advisor is Harold DeVries, and he's given us a really good deal, and he's amazing. He's booked up all the time when he's here at Launch It, and our mentors haven't been called on as much, so the honorarium that we're giving to them has been lowered too. So that's where we sit, and there's no net increase, no net to taxes for Launch It.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Building bylaw.
All right.
Barry. All right, so my budget's always hard or difficult to project what the revenue is based on the revenue comes from building permit fees, so it depends on how busy I am as to how much we bring in. Lately we have been trending higher revenue than we have, so I'm actually proposing a $30,000 increase in, a $56,000 increase in the permit revenue. Couple of expenses that have increased is one is salary. Our source water protection funding is gone, so Stacy's full salary is in the budget now, as well as she was off on mat leave for a portion of last year, and we still have a contract position on. The other big increase for $20,000 is the commencement of our development charge study. That has to be done next year, but we need some more lead time to do it. So,
And that when we have a development charge for admin, it's very limiting. You can't use the branded hard assets, but as I guess 5 years ago, we're going to pay that $20,000 out of that development charge.
so any questions for me? Perfect. Thank you. Fire. Who's doing fire?
Well, I guess I am. I kind of forgot that.
You're double-hatted on this now.
Yeah, I guess I'm fire.
Double.
Fire is pretty stable again this year for budget. The biggest increase, the administration has just taken on more. Every year we kind of amalgamate stuff from the station budgets. So you see the Clifford Fire, Harrison, and Palmerston Fire budgets, and we put it into the overall. So you'll see the equipment budget, the equipment maintenance is up, and that's because we have to we take all of the equipment maintenance instead of breaking out per station. It's very, very difficult. So if I fix 3 air packs and 2 are from one station and 1 are from another one, having to split it out, it's just all equipment maintenance now. So we are doing it that way that it does that. We have the added mental health initiative, which is $5,000, which you're going to see a report at the council meeting on Tuesday of some really exciting initiatives, not only within Minto Fire, which we have made huge strides in it. One of our newest peer support counselors is Councillor Gunson, who's one of our peer support counselors and been trained and that. But you're also going to see the community initiatives that are coming forward. So that's helping to pay for some of that, as well as Matt has some in his budget to do that. Just in case you need to, and you'll get I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a logo contest that was just launched for the new Minto Mental Health. So you can go in and vote for your logo that you want for that. So please get on and do that. But yeah, other than that, there's some small increase to wages and benefits for our full-time staff, and it's just mostly a status quo budget for fire.
Did you just do the overall one?
Yeah, I just did the overall,
Yeah.
and the fire, like the administration.
Yeah.
Is where and then the station budgets, they stay pretty much the same.
Yeah.
It is very difficult to budget wages. You'll see in our year-end report whenever that gets finished that we did. Palmerston did significantly more calls than they've ever done before. They broke the 100 mark for the first time, so wages were a little higher than predicted, but hopefully that goes down because then that means we're not going on as much. So.
Questions? So do you guys want me to? Do you want to go into the breakdowns of each department, or are you good
No, I
with
don't
that?
think so. They're all the
Good?
same.
You're
Pretty
good?
well the
Yeah.
same.
All right.
Yeah, the station budget I didn't touch. They're up and down
Yep.
$150 here and there.
Perfect.
Facilities.
Facilities, yep. Clifford Arena. Here comes Al.
Charlie looks bright, doesn't
Yeah. Another new shirt for Christmas. That's two. And Al, I must say, the coordination of color with your binder is quite interesting. Is that a planned thing? Or
I did mention that to Mark, the younger fella. That
Yes.
Would need to work on that
Yes,
next
he
year.
does. He does. He's got the black.
Just a couple of general statements with our budgets. The arenas, you're going to notice that we've paid off our roofs, and we have put a significant chunk of that money back into reserves. We did add a little bit of that money into maintenance costs that are needed for aging facilities as well. In the parks, you'll see some moderate changes on the bottom lines. That's a result of us designating people to the park staff as opposed to just having Palmerston, Clifford, and Harriston. It's all done as a town of Minto thing now, and that would be the main reason that you'll see that the Harriston ball diamond is going to cost the same as the Clifford ball diamond, and so on throughout the town. So I guess going through this, it's listed as Clifford first. Did you want to ask questions as per each
I think
facility?
we can probably lay it out like that. Just if you've got a question on the Clifford operating budget, then ask it. And go from there. If you don't have a question, then we'll just move on to the next. Is that fair?
Quick transfer to reserves, Al, how much was it?
The
You're
transfer?
offsetting operating with the debt payments. Some of it's going to operating.
Yeah.
Some's going to reserves, right?
Yeah, so we're increasing. Oh my goodness.
Well, transfer to reserves. I see
Yeah.
30,000.
30 grand.
Yeah, well, it's traditionally been 30, but it's in Clifford's situation, it's up to 50 this year.
You're not making.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And on that, I think the idea there is if we start putting it away there, depending what's happening down the road, Councilor McKenzie, we'll have that built up a little bit. I mean, we could, if the council wanted to, you could take that $50,000 and put it against the bottom line, but I'm a great believer in building some reserves up, because down the road you're going to have to do some work, whether it'll be on that particular building or down the road on what building we do. As we pay off debt, that was sort of what we've been doing in the past.
That's what we're
Trying to do. It's not easy all the time, but we're trying to do it.
Amazing how how the hours of ice rental stays the same, year after year after year.
There's a lot of work gets put into that by the central booking staff.
I believe it.
Worked hard.
Mm-hmm.
It does fluctuate a little bit. You'll have some years you'll gain an hour, and next year you might lose one, but they do stay pretty consistent.
All right, parks, Clifford Parks. Lots of parks. Any questions on the Clifford Park? Our parks? We're somewhat blessed there, and I think in your report you talk about it, is that the Rotary Club cuts the main portion of the big park, and that's under their ticket. They do that. They have their own machine, and they cut that park.
That saves the town a lot of money.
Saves the town a lot of money, and I tell them every time I meet with them, I let them know that that's really appreciated.
It's a big area.
Big area.
So you go to the meeting often, and do we thank them enough?
Well, I go probably 3 or 4 times a year, and I'm at most of their functions. I know some of the councillors here that have worked some of their functions that they raise money. The truck show, I think, Councilor Anderson, you've been there doing stuff, and anybody that can help out, by all means. In the heat. In the heat, yeah, it's really hot, that one. But anyways, no, we do tell them as much as possible, and I think they've been a great partner throughout.
If you don't mind me saying, like, this municipality is blessed with the work that the service clubs do, and the donations, not just the financial, but assistance with manpower, like at the swimming pool and the Kinsman last year. We're very lucky.
Very lucky. Yeah. Okay. Clifford Ball Diamond. You build it and they will come. Just like the Field of Dreams up here. Any questions on the ball diamond? You know, we've had some issues, but we're going to work on that.
Yes, we are working on that.
But I was totally amazed. I know when we, there's another instance where originally when we decided to relocate the ball diamond, as everybody knows, we end up opening up some good residential, and we've got half of it filled, and hopefully they'll be starting building on the other half this year. That was sort of Bill's baby that he came up with when we did the meeting for the Clifford recreational thing, and we thought that they only were, I think, one night a week or something like that, they were using the lights, so we said we're not going to put lights on the new diamond. The Clifford community came to us and said we'd like to put new lights on the diamond. We said, well, we don't have a budget for new lights. I think that was 30,000 approximately
For lights, that was the loan.
That was the
The
loan.
project itself was
Bigger than that.
It was double that.
Double that, about 60,000. So they come up with 30. We lent them 30. They paid it off within 2.5 years.
Yep.
And that just goes back to how you work with relationships, and that was the CRA did that.
It was a community effort.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed one time standing on the main street collecting money from the people that were going through to their cottages. We did it with a toll road, which I just loved. The fact that one guy said, well, I don't know, I have to pay to go through Clifford. Well, that's the way it is. And it was for diamonds, lights. So that was really good. Anyways, great job. And that now they're playing every night of the week.
Yeah, 5 days a week.
5 days a week
This
under the
past
lights.
summer.
Yeah.
I do believe it's 8 games, 7 or 8 games.
Yeah.
a
Our
week.
problem now is it's too used up, and some of our neighbors are too happy that it's used every night. But that's kind of a tough thing. Who would have thought? Okay, Harrison Arena. Get it up here. There we go. Questions on Harrison Arena? Did we transferring anything into the Harrison Arena? No.
In the reserves?
Yeah.
The Harrison Arena roof payments have been done for, I do believe, 3 years
Okay.
now.
All right.
So you're not seeing that.
Not seeing it
It's-
anymore.
I'm sorry. It's in Palmerston and Clay.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have 65 that we did previous years
Yes.
into the reserve. Yeah. Good. Any questions? Harrison Parks. Where? Straightforward. Questions? Oh, okay. All diamond and soccer.
Changing the actuals to the
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There's the Harrison Diamond. And there's been a lot of improvements there that came through grants and donations as well.
We've done a little bit of work there. The Jeff Davies Foundation did make a sizable donation and did some work on the dugouts. The ball diamond.
It looks a lot different than this.
Yeah, this picture. Yeah. Looks nice.
We'll get that updated next year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
And
I should be. We should have a new picture in there.
And is the food booth in this as well? We did the food booth last year, but that was all donations as well, was it not?
Yes. Yep.
So as you noticed at the park, which helps for the fair as well, the food booth's been all redone, and I know the Optimist Club love it, and it certainly comes to the point where, from public health standpoint, they're very good. They're happy about it because of all the nice cement floor. They've got the wash areas. They've got everything they can do.
It's nice, and there's a little work done on some of the other parks, working with the horticultural societies and kelp programs. We got a little bit of work done, and they're looking nicer. We want to keep going in that direction.
Palmerston Arena. Pretty good. Questions? Palmerston Parks. Okay, pretty well straight line there. Questions? Is the fountain still working? If you don't keep that fountain working, Bill will come back to haunt you.
We might have to name that fountain after him.
You might have to. That was a
Because
lot of
all the
work.
grief you put Al
A
under.
lot of work to get that little fountain back working. And again, a lot of it volunteer labor and a lot of good ideas from the Lions Club in that case. And again, the Lions Club, I can't say enough about them with all the improvements they've done in the parks. And again, without them, we just couldn't do it.
One thing I maybe will bring up at this point, just to give you a heads up, is in the capital, and I discussed this with Treasurer Duff, we will be presenting a proposal for a painting schedule down in the Palmerston Parks for the pedestrian bridge and our pieces of rolling stock. Our discussion, Gord mentioned he'd prefer it be presented in capital, but that will be something we should be looking at to maintain those assets for years to come.
Right?
Sorry.
No problem. And the ball diamonds. Palmerston Ball Diamond. And I believe they're going to host the 2000 provincial 2019 or 20. 19. Bantam, right?
Yes.
Bantam Provincial. Did a nice job on the last one. We got the electronic scoreboard, and that was a big boom, and that was all fundraised as well.
I think before we move on from the parks, and maybe I could let Chris speak about this, we did have a discussion about next year in our budget as maybe. Did you want to talk about this, Chris?
The rec thing?
Well, no, more so the
budget
for the parks and ball diamonds.
Yeah, one of the things that we're going to strive to streamline some things now that staff they float between the facilities. They're more Minto staff than they are dedicated facilities, which is working a lot better, which Al's done. So next year when you see the budgets, we're going to work at just presenting you with just a parks budget. It's not going to be Clifford Parks, Hairston Parks, Palmerston Parks. We're going to work at putting it together as parks, so that you can see what the total cost for parks is. And the same thing for ball and soccer. We're going to put the ball and soccer ones together as just ball and soccer, so that you can see what ball is. And then the arenas ones will stay separate so you can see what each facility costs. But it's just a little bit easier because staff time right now, having to split it up to say they spent 3 hours at this park and 3 hours at this park and 2 hours at this park is very time consuming, and quite frankly, the staff doesn't need to do it. Dwayne is the acting lead hand for parks. He's in parks, and his wage would come just out of the whole parks budget. So it would save Al and his staff some time and be easier for you to see that it's just one that instead of staff having to gauge their hours of where they spend their time. So
Thoughts on that? I thought it was a good idea.
Great idea. It's a good idea. Yeah.
And if we have to break something out, you can break something out if there's a cost. Most of it will be a capital cost rather than operating, right?
absolutely, yeah. And Al's more than willing to do that, and thinks it'll save him some time so staff can focus on maintenance.
Good. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, satellite facilities. We keep growing that satellite facilities. It's a growth field for us.
Yep.
Go ahead. Any concerns about satellite? And you know where all the satellite facilities are? They're listed there. They're still in orbit, every one of them, and nothing's crashed as we speak.
Just a reminder that the one that's not shown in there is the Lions Medical Clinic in Hairston, because it is not considered it is a satellite facility, but it's not. It's run by the separate board that we established in 2016, somewhere around there. 15, 16. So that's just a quick reminder that that's the one that's not in there. It's separate.
And the idea of that one, and once everything gets settled in and the dust settles and we've done, it's totally full. And I think Gord will have it'll be at least we'll have enough rent from that to put into reserves to look after it, so it's not going to cost the taxpayers any money.
Yeah. As you know, we had to lend them some money because we did major upgrades.
We did a lot. Yes.
Did not just the roof, but the HVAC and
Trees removal.
trees and signs and all that. So we put a plan in place that we should be able to pay ourselves back for that. And as you say, I think we've all toured through it. It's totally unrecognizable. It's into the 21st century. It's great. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yep, and good tenants and good rents, and added value to types of things that are in there to the community.
Yeah, medical related. Anyway.
Okay. Any questions on satellite facilities? No. Trails.
As mentioned with the trail before, that we did have that little incident at the bridge, so that is still with the insurer. That we're still working with the insurer to see. Mike just talked to them last week, and they're still debating or measuring on their end whether they're going to do replacement or retrofit or like repair. So when we reported this new incident, maybe that'll lean them more towards total replacement of the structure instead of repairing the structure.
Is everybody familiar with the fact that somebody tried to light it on fire?
Yeah,
maybe that'll explain.
Before you came, I updated
Oh, did you
quickly on
update
that.
them? Good.
Yep.
Okay. Good.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how they tried to light it on fire during
In the rain.
In the rain.
rain, but
Is this one?
this is the other one, the one that we had flood damage.
Yeah.
That we were sitting there. It's in repair. No, not the one we fixed,
Okay.
but this one. So the insurance company was already looking at what to do. Somebody decided to try to light it up too. So.
On the angle.
Correct. The one you can see right from White's Road. Yeah.
But we want to your insurance fix that and have that open up next year. We'll keep you up to date on that. But trails, you know, I'm hoping that the trails committee, new trails committee, will really get this ramped up and really start promoting the fact that we can go from at least from Palmerston to Harrison now, and we have that section from Greenbush into Clifford. So we're looking to doing some stuff. So I'm sure the trails committee will want to work on that a year and get things rolling. Anything else there? Oh,
It's an overall comment, if I could. Are we done with trails? Or?
Oh no, yeah, we're coming into venture camps and stuff now. Did you want to just go over all
Yeah,
that?
just the facilities.
Sure. Yep. Sure.
I just want to make a comment, and we've talked about this in Prac, and I have talked about this in other council meetings before. But this year, I believe, or this coming term, we're moving into a recreation master plan. How we do that, or how we present our recreation, whether it's in-house or exterior, I think that's something that has to be decided in the future. Part of that recreation plan, there may be some moves within our facilities to make changes or whatever may happen. And every year we spend 100 to bring our facilities up to 100%. And I've said that before. And I'm thinking that we should be more wary of the money that we spent in these facilities, just in case something drastically changes within the master plan. Maybe 3 facilities aren't what we need. Maybe we don't need certain things that we ask for in an arena. I think, as I know we have put in, as I looked at the budget, we put in some capital spending in different facilities that will bring our facility back to where we should be. And if we do that, and all of a sudden we spend a couple $100,000 on different facilities, and then they decide that that's not the way, or that's not what we need in that facility, or our council of the day decides that, I just think and especially with funding, we've got to find ways of saving money. We've got to find ways that, like, it's costing us $500,000 to operate facilities.
Close to it, yeah.
Yep. So $500,000 to operate 3 facilities. Maybe they're going to find ways of saving us $100,000 or a couple $100,000 by doing something different. We spend that kind of money, and it's of no use to us in the future, and that's the case. So I would hope we certainly will take this to Prac, and I'm hoping in the future we have that recreation master plan that we created, council ad hoc committee, help move towards that. So I think let's be careful before we spend the money. Let's ask the questions and see where we're going forward. I'm sure this is what council wants. We want to spend money on something that we're not going to use.
And I think we can bring that to the capital budget. I think a lot of what's in the operating hopefully is just maintenance, Ron. That we have to, well, as long as we have these facilities, they have to be safe, they have to
Sure.
be clean, whatever.
Maybe
but
that's something we should bring more forward in the capital.
I think
But I think we got to be aware of that.
Yeah.
A lot of this, it was put forward a little bit in our spending. So
I don't know. I haven't seen capital on arenas and whatnot, but I'm not sure we have a whole bunch of capital expenditures coming in arenas. There's a fair bit coming. Okay, so we'll have to look at that.
Sure.
I would love. I didn't strike that committee just right away because I kind of want to look at that and ask some questions about it, maybe through Crack or whatever. But I think it has to be more than just a facilities committee. The master recreation plan. I want to
absolutely. It would cover it all.
Yeah, I want to expand it out there to some cultural and everything else. There's all kinds of other things. So I'd like to have when we strike that committee, hopefully by June. I'd like to probably strike it by June, that we can get a terms of reference for it. And I'm sure there's some out there to even look at and get a cross section of the population to be involved in that. And then you're right, we should be looking at that and making sure that if there is things we can put off in case of where this plan is going to come down and how quick you want to have the actual report.
I challenge anybody to say that not too many people know more about facilities and recreation and the staff that we have here. So
I'm
external permanent plan is just going to come in and ask our guys the questions, and they're going to give the answers. So
yeah, I don't know how much money, how much we're going to put aside as far as having a consultant come in or whatever.
So we may not need that. But that's something we can discuss too, and that's something we should be.
Well, we've done, in fairness, we've done a master plan, a fire master plan in-house. Our last strategic plan, I remember some of the councilors remember we did that in-house. Now what we did was we brought in some facilitators at really low cost. Some were county facilitators. We had some other people came in, and I think we can look out to our partners and get facilitators, because it's tough for a local person to facilitate a session when they've got skin in the game type thing. So it's hard to really get that independence feel. But I think we have an opportunity to probably do the master plan somewhat in-house with some maybe outside help. But I'm not thinking that we should be running out and hiring a consultant for $100,000 to come in and tell us it's pretty simple. You could come in and say, guess what? One central arena could save you operating costs. Well, we all know that. There's a lot more to it than that.
And this is part of what we got to discover.
Yeah. And what down the road is, So I really like to get that done, get it up and running before the summer. So,
if I may, Mayor Bridge, I've had an opportunity to work in the town of Minto for 16 years, and with the exception of Jeff, everybody at this council table for a minimum of 8 years. The council here has always been had a high interest in recreation and have been very supportive of it, and I do believe that we're at a point whereas if we do want to make a plan for the future, that we've got some very good people. You've talked about staff, Ron, but we have some very good people in place right here, and with our recreation committee, and I'm actually relieved to see that they do want to do this, and I would prefer that everybody look at this as a positive.
Yeah, for sure.
Not as a negative, because it's an opportunity to make things better for the town of Minto.
And get the community involved.
Oh, for sure.
Everybody. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Recreation. Did you guys want to? When did you want to break?
It's up to you. We only have recreation and public works left, so.
Did you want to work right through and then eat at the end? How does everybody want it?
Yep.
I can hang in there.
Okay.
We just came from the county.
I had 2 cookies at the last meeting. Chocolate chip cookies, yeah. It made me through. Yeah, no, I don't have them in my pocket. Hey, Matt.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge.
No,
the
camp first.
First budget sheet up for review would be our day camp program. So our adventure camp, we typically have operated over March break and the summer months when school's out. Just this past fall, we've started doing PA day programs that have been very successful. The big change here would be that we're not going to have a student supervisor run the program anymore. That would be something that Jessica would do in her new role, and that's where you would see the increase in the staff wages and benefits for that. I think this is a much more sustainable approach. We've been lucky in the past to have some really good student supervisors come through the ranks. One actually works for us full time now, but you can't always rely on that. And just with the number of kids that want to come into our program, and some of the different behaviors that we saw this past summer, I think that you want to have someone with this type of background and expertise and availability in the fold. So that's what we're looking at for our day camp program.
Questions? I've been able to go ahead.
Was just going to comment from a liability point of view too. I think it's a good idea to have somebody older and more trained in place. I was wondering, has there been any request or interest in having any PA day camps or summer programs in Clifford at all?
Through Mayor Bridge, at this point, we didn't have a lot for the PA day program. It is something, depending on the number of staff that we have, we could look at going up to Clifford. I do know in the summertime that we take the kids swimming every day from 1 to 2, and that's a bit of a deal breaker for some. A number of years back, we said we could go back to the Clifford Hall, but some of the parents said we would rather drive the kids to Harriston so they have a chance to go swimming. But that's definitely something with the position we're in now that we could look at. March break camps coming up. If we have enough staff available, we could look at doing a program up there just over March break and see what the interest is like. Because certainly with what we've seen, the number of new houses there, there's more people and there's more younger
Mm-hmm.
kids there. So that's definitely something we could look at. Yeah.
Good
Okay,
point.
thanks.
And I think having Jess there, she works downstairs in the basement here. And from time to time, I'll pop down, and she's already working on summer programs now because she has some time. When she does her after-school program. So I think we're going to get a really good product this year, and she's going to be able to handle the staff and take a lot of that real, as you say, the safety issues and the things. And I see this program just growing, and maybe Clifford will be where it grows too. Be nice.
Yeah, very definite possibility.
Any other questions on after school program?
Yeah, so with the day camp program and the after school program, something that we've cut out this year is just any expectation of government wage subsidies or grants. We are always applying for different types of grants, whether it's the summer experience program, Canada Summer Jobs. It's very hit and miss. So in terms of our revenues, we don't budget for that anymore. With our after school program, this proposal would include a launch into Minto Clifford in September of 2019. The RFP document just came out last week. It's due on the 14th of February. The one good thing going into this fall is that it looks like we'll be able to provide programming for JKSK aged kids. What we're finding in Palmerston right now is that I think we've got one grade 4 student, and the rest are between grades 1 to 3. So, and there are some people who've said that they would have put their kids in the program, but one was JKSK. So, with this, we're proposing 20 kids a day on average at both sites, and just with JKSK being eligible to come into our program, that pretty much is going to double our drawing, the amount of kids that could potentially take part in the program if they so choose.
How do you expect to staff 2 programs when you've had 1 program running? Hire 2 more staff to go to?
Yeah, so what we're looking at doing, just with Jess being on board and having some connections to the different colleges and whatnot that we don't have, we've got some options at our disposal. Certainly we've been lucky with Jess coming on full time to get the program up and running. Mike Minto, who's also working in Palmerston right now, it's great that he's a an asset in our facilities. So essentially, he can start his day at an arena and finish it at the program, or start a day at the program, finish at a facility. What we're looking at is just trying to find someone who may be looking for part-time work, 3 till 6. So essentially, with Michael and Jess in the fold, we just need like a second responsible adult. They don't necessarily have to have the education that's required to be the lead, but certainly you do need to have 2 there. And we're hopeful, and I'm confident that we'll have over 15 per site in the program, and that automatically triggers that a second person would be required. So we're looking at part-time. And that could be maybe someone who's just getting a start at the school with like an LTO or part contract that may want to just, they're at the school already from 9 till 3 and then just finish their day at the program. For a lot of the new people coming out of teachers college, it takes a bit to get in the door. Yeah.
Good.
Harrison Pool.
So just quickly regarding the Harrison Pool, revenues rebounded well in 2018, especially with our heat, hydro, and water expenses. They were down thanks to the warmer weather and mostly the preseason renovations that took place with the help of the Kinsman Club. That really helped with some of the leaks that were causing our water expense to be high. So we're proposing a reduction there, and I think I think we maybe budgeted for the same, but I can't zoom in. But no, things are looking good at the pool. I was happy with how 18 ended as compared to how we were in 2017.
I'm not sure, Rich, with the less leaks, the less cold water you're putting in.
Oh yeah, big time.
Then the pool solar certainly helps too. When you've got some warm weather, it's sort of a double benefit. The hot weather, people come out, the water's warm because the solar's running, and cold day, no sun, double whammy.
And with the Kinsman Club helping with the construction last year, saved some money on the capital side of things. So.
Yeah, certainly that pool renovation went really well. Yeah.
Okay, Norgan Theater.
So with the theater, we're planning to set aside $16,000 in reserve contributions again this year. The same as in 2018. 2018 was our best year since reopening in 2007, and hopefully 19 will be just as successful. We're off to a pretty good start in terms of the weekend attendance, and it just seems that there's no shortage of people who would like to rent during the week, or while we're not showing feature films on the weekend for private rentals. It's a booming spot, and Grace does a terrific job there as our main staff person. And can't say enough also about the volunteers that keep it going on the weekends.
Questions? Palmerston Pool.
Yeah, so again, at the Palmerston Pool, we're proposing a reduction in hydro, water, and heat expenses. We had most of the capital work last year was done at the Harrison Pool, but there was a bit of capital work done in Palmerston, and that helped with some of our expenses. So we're proposing status quo, I believe.
Nice to see all the numbers going up.
Yeah.
Other questions? Operational administration.
So just under Rec Admin, the main increase would be $25,000 being set aside for a Rec Master Plan study. Probably wouldn't cover all of that. That'd probably be about half, with the balance being funded in 2020. And then just the other main one would be just wage and benefit allocation. We've got Greg in a new role here as the recreation and facilities coordinator. Grace is back as of June of this past year off of her mat leave, so just kind of realigning some of that.
With that rec plan, depending on what council decides, and as Councillor Elliott spoke about, that's in there as a placeholder, but we definitely as it goes through and we set the terms of reference and you figure out what you want to do for ad hoc committees and stuff like that, that could easily not be spent if necessary and if council decides that. But recommended that talking to Al and Matt that it's kept in there as a placeholder just till council has their direction on which way they want to go.
Special programs.
So just quickly with special programs, we've got no major changes proposed. They typically run at a surplus of about $6,000, and that includes some of our directly run programs like grassroots basketball and hockey, soccer, try it program, the ball hockey league, shuffleboard, pickleball, to name a few, as well as the Minto retiree activity group. They meet here on a monthly basis, and they typically plan 4 or 5 trips of interest for the retirees of our area, and well, it's great to work with them.
Just as a note on that, my wife Elaine runs minor ball, and she comments to me all the time that hometown ball has been a savior for a lot of kids. They come in and that they're brand new to the game. You know that they're not ready to play at a competitive level or even a semi-competitive that we have. So hometown ball we've sent them there, spend a year there, and then they come back and they're ready to play minor ball and they enjoy it much more. And we feel if they came in and tried to play at a level where the other kids were, they're not ready. So yeah, these programs are fantastic, Matt. And, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah. Thanks, Ron.
Health and safety.
So with health and safety nowadays, Greg's one of the co-chairs. I kind of work in the background a little bit, but there's no major changes proposed in terms of the budget for this year upcoming.
Right. Any more questions for Matt? Busy.
Busy's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works. Welcome, Mike.
Okay. So I guess we'll start with cemeteries. The main increases or the main changes to the cemetery budget is the increase in maintenance and then the increase of wages and benefits due to the actuals. We were up about 25% in interments last year, so that's the main reason for the increased wages there. Any questions, Tom?
Questions on that? We sort of talked about this with the grass cutting contract the other day. So any more questions on it? I'm hoping this will fix the problem, at least on the short term. I think we've got a good plan in place. There's a lot of talk last year about cemeteries, and hopefully we don't have as much this year. None.
Yeah.
Or positive comments.
Positive. Yeah, or
yes,
positive comments.
good.
Right. Thanks. Thanks, Councilman. That'd be nice. Yeah.
So the 15,000 increase, is that including the contract
Yes.
and our own staff? Or
No,
is it going up that much?
that's basically the additional cuts as well as topsoiling of the grave sites, tree maintenance, and any other miscellaneous maintenance for 3 cemeteries.
How much is the straight cuts? Do you know? And we haven't got the contract back yet, though. Were they?
I believe
How much were per cut?
for all 3, the combined would be about $1,500 per cut. Yeah, the 3 combined.
So we've sort of added, 3.5 extra cuts. Sort of. We're figuring 3 every 2 weeks type thing.
Yeah, and on average, like the removal of say a century tree in the cemeteries costs roughly $1,500 to $2,000 because of the care needed to bring them down safely too. So as the trees in these areas start to go, and we've seen them go, and also with the ice storms that we've had, there's been ongoing maintenance that way, increased maintenance that way, keeping things safe in there.
Any other questions on the cemetery? Okay, thank you. Municipal drains.
Okay. drains, the main changes there is the increase in funding, and the increase in consulting with the decrease in wages, internal wages here. The increase with the consulting is basically the drainage superintendents, and it's 50% government funded. So increase 20, we get 10,000 in funding for that. Okay.
Questions? Road administration.
Okay, there's a bit of juggling going on with this one, but the highlights with this one is the decrease in transfers to reserves, primarily caused by the increase in the debentures, but then also the decrease in wages due to the postponement of the hiring of the director replacement, and then also the reallocation of the parking lot snow removal, which shows up in winter operations as revenue provided for that service.
Overall, 30,000 down.
Yep.
Vehicle cost and allocation.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Ron.
Yep,
Go ahead.
Parking lot removal, you're changing that procedure? Or
No, so basically, that revenue was previously shown in roads administration.
Okay.
So we're taking that revenue provided from that service and putting it towards the actual where we're providing that service from.
Okay.
So winter control shows that as a revenue for that service. Sure. For the parking lots. Okay.
Where are we? Vehicle.
Okay, so with the vehicle allocation, it's basically staying the same, even though we've reduced the number of units. So that's just showing that we're using the equipment that we have more and still producing roughly the same amount of revenue at the end of the year.
Questions? Roads and sidewalks.
Okay, this one here. The main changes here is the increase to hardtop repairs and resurfacing, and then the major increase here is the 3 new municipal drain constructions that were tendered in 2018 for construction this year, and that basically is the town's share of those assessments.
Winter control.
Winter control, this shows the reallocation of the parking lot snow removal, and then the connecting link expense. That is the connecting link expense. I'm trying to remember, I thought that was always in there, but it was kind of shown in another area. But anyways, those 2 items are there and still showing a decrease in that budget as well.
How's this winter going?
Well,
No comment.
too early to tell.
Never say good.
No.
Never want to ruin a good thing.
Yeah.
Trailer parks only have 1 now.
Yeah. So this is just the increased rent and the decrease in repairs and maintenance due to the elimination of the Harrison trailer park.
Street lights.
Very minimal changes here, and then it balances itself out as well.
Town landscaping care. TLC.
Slight increase just for some new hanging baskets and planters. With the construction last year, the planters and hanging baskets that were up in Clifford were reallocated to other sites. But now that the completion's done, some of them will be going back, but then it's also opened up other opportunities to beautify the downtowns even more too. So that's just the reason for that slight increase there.
That's wrong.
Some of the hanging baskets were very dark last year, and I wondered whether that's, and we've had different problems, different years with our planners. Are we going with the same people that are planning, or?
I can speak to that for you. So
Sure.
the color choice was Paul last year, and it didn't, the brown potato vines sort of go over, so they're very bronzy color. This year they're bright purple and red and yellow out there with a lime green leaf.
Oh.
It'll be bright.
Everybody kept asking.
Everybody had the same.
Are our plants dying?
Yeah, no, it was the potato vine was a bronze leaf potato vine, and they did spectacularly well. They were huge, but they overshadowed the flowers.
Well, and I think that was the case. Paul was disappointed.
Yeah, he wasn't pleased
because when you build these color schemes as you don't know. In this case, that potato vine did do way too well.
Yeah, it just took off.
But once you're in, you're in.
Yeah, it overshadowed the little peachy flowers, and the little purple one at top didn't come out.
That was well documented, Ron, and
yes. Well,
Gene knows what's going on this year. So
well documented in the fact that every time I walk downtown, I get the same question.
Yeah, exactly. What are those dead things? Yeah. Yeah, they're very healthy, but
good.
dead looking.
And the positive to that is everybody is noticing all of our flowers.
That's right.
Excellent. Everybody paid great
Never
attention
thought
to
about
it.
that.
That's right.
And also 2 years ago we had a major aphid infestation in the hanging baskets, which that kind of took over that season. It was caught too late in the season.
Perfect.
Last year was a lot better, and then even moving forward, just with the better control and knowledge of what's taking place there, that's for sure.
And certain plant things that we try to avoid the problem we ran into 2 years ago, but you can't know for sure.
For sure. Weather and everything else played a major factor in that year.
So many things you can control.
Yeah.
Sewage treatment and distribution. Oh, yeah, Mark's coming up. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks for having me. I guess we'll start off
It's a
with
nice shirt too. I like yours better now.
We talked about that before.
Didn't get the memo.
Goodness, nice tie too.
Yes, we'll start with the overhead. Water and wastewater this year, we're going to pay our share of the radios that are in all the trucks. And we had another small increase with our safety equipment with the new ergonomics initiative with the Ministry of Labor that's coming on. Any questions on that? Increase in bad debts. I'll maybe let Gord talk.
Sure.
Yeah. How do we get that, Gord?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that doesn't rise anyway. But what we've done quite a bit of is transferring any water or sewer balances to taxes, basically. However, we do want to make the effort too, and not just do that maybe as a first resort, which I think we kind of fell into over the last year or so. So there's always the potential that maybe it won't go. People, as we know, people are changing all the time. So if you have the odd person that you can't track down and you can't tie it to a property, you just help me sort of add a bit more of a provision here. Hopefully it will come through, but sometimes it does. And it's also not just the water bill, sometimes it's some other fees and connections, and you want to charge that person $25 if it moves, a new owner, so those kind of things happen sometimes.
Not a big amount.
Yeah.
Because normally you put it, if it's a big amount, you put it to the taxes, right? You can't.
Yeah, and if you recall, well, Ron will remember when we took over from West Area, between water and sewer, we were having about 20 to 25,000 because we were billing tenants. So when we switched to landlords,
That's the way to go.
of that went
Landlords,
away.
yep, sure.
Okay, so thank you, Reverend. So when did we take over, Mark? When did you take over?
2015.
It was 15? Repairs and maintenance are good,
Yep. Yeah, we've
catching up?
we're getting ahead of them now. Catching up.
Something to blow up.
It's like winter snow removal.
Well, I think it's a good point. We're one of Mark, I don't know, is any other municipalities in Wellington doing their own sewer?
Center
Oh, Center Wellington, sorry, besides Center Wellington.
And then I don't think so.
No.
Mapleton's Aqua.
It was Wellington North.
Wellington.
Erin doesn't have any.
Yeah, they're
Only
going
water.
to Aqua now too, as well.
And yeah, so I don't remember. I mean, the people that are on the councils, I'm sure that some of the councilors are on other councils. The big thing with going with our own, in my mind, it doesn't save us a ton of money because we have staff and we have equipment and everything else. But what it does is preventive maintenance. And I think that preventive maintenance thing is a big thing, and we've seen that. Whereas if you're with Aqua or whatever, they're going to fix it as they see fit, and then at the end of the day, you're going to get some big bill for something they should have been watching for to break. They didn't preventive maintenance on it, and it breaks, and then now you're stuck with a big bill. So I think this is the way to go, and I know other municipalities would love to get into it, but it's not easy. How long did you work for Center Wellington?
2.5 years.
2.5 years to get your tickets to where we have you here.
Yep.
And
Just
of course,
make sure
the
you
ongoing too.
Oh yeah, of course it's ongoing.
That's another example of a homegrown boy working for the local municipality, Mark, really. I mean, it's wonderful. And I know that was one of our issues a number of years ago, and it was repairs and maintenance. It's ownership.
It was a good thought process that I think the previous council before I got on board, I think, started this project on the go. We just lost the first person, I believe.
Took a little
Didn't
longer.
come through, but it was 3 councils ago that started the project on the go. So, any other thing on sewer treatment? Water treatment? Good. Oh, water treatment. We got. Wait. Sorry, I switch up. Switch up. Yeah. It's your last one, Wayne, maybe, eh?
This might be, yes.
Unless we ring you back for an encore.
Yeah. So anyways, I guess with our budget this year, there will be like changes in staffing. Just for those who don't know, I'm looking at retiring this year.
Just look.
Well, it's probably confirmed. That
Yeah. I think he's got his fishing trip. He's got his fishing trip booked.
Exactly.
She hasn't told you yet.
Yeah.
Bonnie hasn't told
Done on the 31st and leaving on the 2nd. Pretty
Yeah.
well got her figured out.
Exactly.
Anyway, so we're looking at moving guys around in house. Tom's going to move up into my position, and we'll do a little bit of restructuring just on the QMS side, just to have one person will take care of water and sewer, so that we're dealing with one person dealing with the ministry. Kyle Brooking, you're talking about local boys. He's on a contract now that runs out in April, so we're hoping that we can keep him on. He's just working on hours to get his level 1. He has passed his exam, so we're hoping that we can keep him on as I go away. So that's kind of what our plan is on the water side. Some of the increases here, basic wages and that. We're fortunate that labs and that haven't any increases on us this year, so that's good. Just on the overhead, I wanted to mention that when you look at there's that reallocation of water meters, all we've done is kind of taken it from all the towns and made it into one.
Mm-hmm.
So that way there's no increase to the budget, but we've just made it that it's going to be easier that way. And just if you're looking at for that reduction of time for the vac trailer too, it was way up at 36,000, so we've reduced it down to 10,000 now. That's why you see the difference on that one there. So that's just kind of how that came into play. Just if you're wondering what that was about.
And this is our first year under the new participant accreditation.
That's
too,
right.
So
Yeah, going to
2.0.
2.0. So that's creating some changes that right now Todd's on top of all that, and we've been doing risk assessment that has to deal with
those changes also, so that our operators are aware of those changes that are coming forward. So.
Any questions? Well done. Okay, so we're at the end.
For now, are we?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Now, I guess, do you want to make any closing comments, Chris?
No, just I personally want to thank the staff with the transition coming so late in December, and then holidays, and getting back here. The staff did an amazing job, and just to have everybody sitting back there, and it looks like a big lineup, but everybody works together as a team, and you know, anywhere I've worked and anywhere I talk to, we're just so fortunate to have this teamwork that we have here, and to make this budgeting process simple like this. You know, it's not saying the budget is simple to put together and bring it forward to you by any means, but it is a simple process because this team behind us make that a simple process. You know, Gord puts a ton of hours in putting it all together. But to do what they do and come up and present it to you and show you just the facts and you know, no fluff, no hiding anything. It is what it is, and they do a great job of doing that, and just want to personally thank them because Bill's retirement was late in the year and we put this together in a pretty quick amount of time. So a couple little speed bumps here and there, but it was together and that. So we look forward to the February 12th Capitol, where we'll probably have some more discussion and some more items that are going to come forward.
Would you like to say a few words, Chair of Finance?
Well, I have to
Doing
agree.
your job?
I have to agree with our CAO, Chris. I mean, the process is simple when you come to council with a document like this. So, I mean, for sure. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, guys, and I watch you work on this, and Chris has mentioned the fact this was kind of a transition, and I thought everybody pulled together really well to bring this together forward, and Mary Lou would be happy. In Australia, I saw her on Facebook with a koala bear. I wasn't sure you're allowed to touch those little devils. They bite, don't they? I have no idea, but it looks like it.
Enjoying the summer weather.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's great to have the open communication between all departments and all the staff that I know Chris has said we take for granted, but that's what makes it work.
Is it 4 p.m. on the 12th? Or do we do it earlier? I can't remember.
I believe it's 1.
I think it's 1:30.
Yeah, it's 1:30. We had to move this.
Depending on.
Yeah, we had to move this because of my commitments. The county happened to have to be the same day.
Yeah, it's 1:30 on the 12th.
Yep.
Moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Councillor Dirksen. The committee of a whole convenes in the town of Minto Council. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton and second by Councillor Elliott. The Council of Town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry I was late, but let's have a little bite to eat when we're done here.